Hello, and welcome back to another Chris McPherson Show Daily Dose. It is Team List Tuesday, as we do each and every week, dropping in with your team list news from around the NRL. Team lists having dropped just over half an hour before we record, and we're going to rip into it. And if you thought round 4 had some drama and some upsets, round 5 has just kicked down the door and said, hold my strapping tape. Superstars back, suspensions biting teams in key spots, and some young guns getting their shot. A couple of teams staring straight down the barrel already. Their backs against the wall. One coach is gone. Will more follow? Only time will tell. This is Team List Tuesday. It's round 5 where seasons can turn or start to unravel. Let's have a look at how it all shapes up and rip through every game, the biggest ins, the biggest outs, and what it all means for your team. We'll start with the Dolphins and the Sea Eagles Thursday night, 8 o'clock, KO Stadium at Redcliffe. Jason Saab is out with suspension. Clayton Forlalo is in for the NRL debut, starting in 2026, his first taste of it. For the Dolphins, Kurt Donahue comes back on an extended bench for a long injury layoff. He hasn't played since round 27 against the Raiders last year, so great to see him back. He was obviously someone who was just really into their own last year. Looking forward to seeing how he hits the ground running. Obviously, the talking point here is going to very much be around Kieran Foran in his first coaching job, the shortest ever turnaround in terms of days and time between a playing retirement and being appointed as an interim or full-time head coach of an NRL side. Less than 10 months, a phenomenally short stint in the wilderness, if you will, just as an assistant. Another note for Manly, Ethan Bullemore has been named. That is despite last week's late Achilles scare. So we'll watch and wait whether or not he is fit to go for them off their bench. But Hammerside Tabuai-Fidow versus Tom Trbojevic, a huge matchup. It's the pure speed and explosivity of the Hammer up against the power, athleticism and experience of Tommy Trbojevic in full flight. Two of the best fullbacks in the game for different reasons, but equally adept at breaking a game open. The Dolphins spine, it looks like it's starting to settle. When you have a look through, obviously you've got the Hammer at fullback, Nikorima and Katoa in the halves, and then Max Plath at 9 at the moment, with the option now of Donahue to come in off the bench. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Kieran Foran, he's resisted the hype of Joey Walsh and trying to bring him in. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if and how long that continues on. Manly do certainly lose strike and experience with Saab out wide. That edge finishing will take a hit, which will be another dint in an already tough season for them. We look at the Dolphins, their forward pack. It looks gritty. It looks balanced. The Manly forward pack hasn't really outshone itself in recent weeks. I've got to say, slight lean to the Dolphins, both on performance and at home. But again, Tom Turbo could break everything open and completely undo our prediction. We move on to Friday, and it is Good Friday. So an earlier game, 4 p.m. at a core stadium, out at Homebush. The Rabbitohs versus the Bulldogs. I was thrown then by their news in the recent weeks about uplifting their numbers of games at Allianz. The key changes, Campbell Graham comes back in for South Sydney. Sam Hughes and Harry Hayes are both in for the Dogs. Josh Curran, a big out for the Dogs. Bronson Xerri lurking on an extended bench. He's been good in New South Wales Cup. It feels like he could be one more game away from blowing the door open, especially if the Bulldogs continue to be unimpressive. We keep an eye on that. We've then got Cody Walker versus Matt Burton in terms of matchups here. This is huge for me. Always looking forward to seeing what they can do. Two very different 5'8s. Obviously, Burton more traditionally a centre, even the way he goes about it. But those towering bombs, Cody Walker, the crafty playmaker, just doing what he does best, getting his centres running off him with Trell Mitt and Jack Whiten out there. Some really good options that he can let loose, as well as throw in a David Fafita. And there's some real danger there if you are Souths. Souths, they're more complete with Graham back. I think that back five of Gray, Johnson, Mitchell, Whiten and Graham looks really good. Cody Walker at 6, Humphreys at 7. Still waiting to see him really dominate and take ownership, but I feel like he's building. The Bulldogs pack does regain some steel. Obviously, Hughes coming back in is a big in up front for them. Hayes off the bench will be good, the Central Coast product as well. It feels like it's going to be a grind, field position battle written all over it, and it really feels like it could be a breakout, opportunity. It could be that sort of center second row, combination on one of the edges. a game for a player like a Viliami Kikau, a Jacob Preston, David Fafita, Latrell Mitchell, Stephen Crichton to break out and really dominate in this game. I'm going to lean to the Rabbitohs after what we saw from the Bulldogs last week against the Knights. But again, that forward pack being bolstered does give me a little more confidence. On Friday, the Panthers versus the Storm. Obviously, the Storm will be stinging after that loss to the Cowboys. Panthers absolutely flying high on top of the ladder. Mitch Kenny out at 9 is a huge dint for the Panthers. That said, Freddie Lussick comes in at 9. They've got Jack Cogger coming off the bench. Nick Meaney does come back in for the Storm in the centres. Not as big a needle move as the out of Kenny, but still good. As I touched on, Cogger returns and Isaac Tago still pushing for a return from the bench. The big talking points here, Cleary v. Hughes. Cleary, obviously, the pace-setting half, as we know. Hughes, the Kiwi, number 7, has been such a key cog for Melbourne. Probably underrated sometimes when we talk about the halfback races and who is atop that, leaderboard in terms of bragging rights. The Storm, their spine is fully loaded. It's ready to rock and roll. And, I think this is a danger game for Penrith. Losing Kenny's huge. The ruck control, the speed that he delivers out of there, he's really taking things to another level. The Storm do gain a little bit with their reshuffles. Meaney coming back's a bit of a mover, but not huge. I've got this one as an absolute toss of a coin. I think there's some value about the Storm and maybe Bellamy just having them up for this one. The Panthers, as I said, they're undefeated so far. When will that first blemish come? The Storm are the kings of finding those in teams. So, I'm going to tip a really close one, but don't be surprised to see the Storm get it done. Next up, we move to Saturday, and this one is out at Cogra. It is the Dragons up against the Cowboys. The Dragons languishing last, and as such have made some changes. Lycan King Togia is in at 5'8", alongside Daniel Atkinson. Moses Sully is back in the centres. Toby Couchman returns in the front row. There's some big, big changes. Tom Chester does return for the Cowboys, meaning Zach Labert goes back to the bench. The Cows have won 6 in a row versus the Dragons. And look, there's no denying that there's been some pressure on them. Obviously, that win over Melbourne will relieve a little bit of that. The new look Dragons spine, that could be a little bit unpredictable, but Shane Flanagan's been forced to make that change. Obviously, it's a big issue that they've got sitting at the bottom of the ladder. He's going to feel the pressure on him. At some point, the knives are going to come. They're going to come circling for him. Todd Payton bought some time with that win over the Storm, but they really need to follow this up with a win over the Dragons. The Cowboys should dominate through the middle, even with Couchman back in. The Dragons certainly have some upside and very little downside from where they've been, but I just can't, with any real fortitude, tip the Dragons here. I've got to go with the Cowboys, but this is another one of those games that, it's going to be a tough one to really get into. So, I'll tip the Cowboys, not with a huge amount of confidence, but I just can't tip the Dragons. Titans up against the Broncos, another Queensland derby, and this one's an interesting one. The Titans coming off their first win. They will be unchanged. Huge in for the Broncos. Payne Haas is back in. Grant Anderson is out of action with an injury. Jesse Arthurs comes in on the wing. Big points here. Obviously, the Titans not settled on their pack, really. They've made some changes at different points. But Payne Haas versus Tino Fa'asuamaleaui. Chance for Big Tino to stand up. Mo Fodawaker's gone back to the bench. This is the chance for them to absolutely take this to the next level. Look, the Broncos are going to go into this as really warm favourites. There's no denying that. Ben Hunt coming off the bench. He's going to be that serious X factor with Mam, Reynolds, Walsh, and Pakes in the spine. The Broncos look like they're building a bit of momentum, but the knives and the questions about Michael Maguire will not go away at the moment. Their pack obviously elevated with Payne Haas in. The Titans, a bit of continuity, but they've been pretty continuous throughout the season, and they've only got the one win so far. I just think the Broncos are going to have too much firepower, despite it being on the Gold Coast. But never say never, the Titans, like the other Queensland teams, like to get up for the fight with Big Brother. We head Sunday, 2 o'clock. It is the Sharks and the Wars. The Warriors, a surprising loss to the Tigers last week. The Sharks got home against the Raiders. Mitch Barnett is out with a thumb injury, which is a huge loss for the Warriors. That sees Dimitri Vaimalga come into the Warriors bench. The Sharks are largely unchanged, and they've still got Britton Nickera lurking in that extended squad. Adam Fanua-Blake's going to be absolutely up for it against his former side. Watch what he does against Fisher-Harris, Ford, Halasima, and co. Look, the Sharks look more settled. The Warriors have lost some punch through the middle, but I just think that their coaching staff's going to have them absolutely up and about for this after that loss to the Tigers. They see themselves as a genuine top 4 contender, and they want to keep proving that. Yes, they're sitting there at the moment thanks to other results. But look, Cronulla are strong at home, but I'm going to lean the Warriors, even though many might think that Barnett injury is an absolute death knell. Yes, it's going to be hard for them, Fanua Blake, Rudolph and co, Tommy Hazelton, Oregon Kaufusi, but I just think the Wales will find something here. That moves on to Sunday afternoon, the Knights and the Warriors. Trey Mooney is back in for the Knights. Still no Ponga or Brown for some extended time. Josh Papali'i also comes back in for the Raiders. It is obviously for Trey Mooney a clash up against his former club. Harrison Graham's been promoted into the bench utility role in the 14 jersey. This is going to be an interesting one. Watching Bradman Best take on those Raiders' edge. That's going to be the matchup to watch, certainly. We see Jaden Brayley come back and take on his former side as well. There's a lot of cross-team battles here for players that have played at the former club. The Knights have been strong. They had a good win over the Dogs. They're building nicely. Again, the Raiders go in as favourites somehow. Newcastle at home. The middle battle is going to be huge. Papali and Tapane up against Saifidi and Mooney. Saifidi's going to have to take on a lot of work as he did last week, and then make sure their bench rotations are working for them. The bench rotation for the Raiders is good if they can stay disciplined. Really looking forward to the centre battle, seeing the likes of Sasagi and Best go toe-to-toe. The young fullbacks, Weeks and Hunt, and then some younger halves pairings as well. So there's some excitement in this. It's going to be an absolute big one. The Raiders need to find some form, need to find a win. Look, my head tells me the Knights, but my heart says the Raiders. I mean, you can see the shirt I'm wearing. I am a proud Green Machine fan. So being a Green Machine fan in Newcastle, got to go the Raiders. The Knights continuity is going to be hard to overcome here. But, really looking forward to seeing how this one shapes up. And, a really exciting match up there. That moves us on to the Eels and the West Tigers. Monday, 4:05. The traditional Easter Monday game. Looking forward to this one. Joash Papali'i comes in at fullback for the Eels. Iongi is out injured, so that's a big loss. But again, Papali'i, an exciting young gun. Jack DeBellin comes on to an extended bench. Tigers, unsurprisingly, unchanged after that wonderful win over the Warriors over there in NZ last week. Mitch Moses versus Adam Dewey. Obviously, Dewey's overcome that hamstring injury and was such a key part alongside Jock Madden in those halves. So Madden and Dewey versus Pezzett and Moses, looking forward to that. Bit of a reshuffled spine, as we said. What can Papali'i bring? It's his audition. It's his chance to shine and try and lock down that spot. The Eels have been a bit disrupted, but look, if Mitch Moses can get control of this game, Parramatta should win it. If it can get scrappy, the Tigers will certainly take advantage. The one thing we know, it's going to be a huge crowd there at Western Sydney Stadium, so we're really looking forward to, how this one shapes up. I'm going to lean to the Eels, but again, neither of these sides has blessed me with confidence in their stability and consistency, so we'll wait and see. Can the Tigers back it up, or will it be the Eels bouncing back? There's certainly some massive ins this week. Payne Haas, Campbell Graham, Josh Papali'i, to name a few. This round has some real weight and some real punch to it. There's a few teams under pressure, as I said. Their coaches will be looking over their shoulder and feeling targets on their back. We're only just getting started, heading into round 5. Strap in, round 5 feels like it'll continue to set the tone for the season ahead. We've got an interesting looking top 4 at the moment when you've got the Panthers, the Warriors, the Tigers and the Knights sitting in there. Who's coming for them? Who's sliding? Well, we'll know more when we get back to you next week. But in the meantime, enjoy your footy. And as always, make sure to hit like on the video. Hit subscribe on the channel. If you haven't already, get involved in the comments. Let us know who you see as your upset of the round. And of course, for all your sports shorts, snippets, make sure to follow us along on social media at The Chris Mack Show. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook and X. And a huge thanks to you for tuning into your home of the Black and White of Sports. No great opinions here.